Transcription below for more.
Isn't it sweet? You see, you add the story that it's watering the land. It's being used for survival. It's using you for survival. It doesn't mean anything, but it's using you for that. It just is. When I ask you to consider the possibility that your life has no meaning and no purpose, you can't tolerate that notion. You can't even consider the possibility. You can't consider the possibility that your life has as much meaning and as much purpose as a thunderstorm. Yes, it's very interesting, and there's all kinds of things happening within a thunderstorm. I mean, really, they're wonderful. But they don't have any meaning. And they aren't going anywhere like a purpose. And it's true that they're wonderfully unpredictable within limits. And it's true that we're getting better at predicting them, like we are about you. But the thunderstorm can't add meaning to what's happening, and you can. And in adding the meaning, you cover up the inauthenticity of the being of human beings. The being of human beings is fundamentally inauthentic. That is to say, it is a being used by being. It's like you are a spear carrier in an opera that you made up. Lots of you are spear carriers in other people's operas, which is even worse. The being of human beings is a mechanism, the end of which, the purpose or design function of which is survival. See, now you can't hear it because you know it's going to work out. You're just sure it's going to work out. It isn't going to work out. Really, it is not going to work out. This is all there is. This what you got is what there is. Never mind the fairy tales. This is it. It is not going to work out because it has already worked out. This is the way it worked out. You don't like that? Too bad. The knight in shining armor is not going to ride into your living room and carry you off. So you better stop saving it. You better give it up now. More importantly, to come to grips with our own fundamental inauthenticity begins to alter the mood of being in which we live. From one of resignation to one of a kind of authenticity or honesty about the inauthenticity which we are. One begins to wake up in an environment of being that has a certain quality of authenticity which no one covering up this ever knows about. I didn't say that was true. I said that I'm not a guy in a diner, and that I meant what I said. And I'm asking you to stand in the possibility of what I said and look out at your everyday way of being. I'm not asking you to surrender or to give into the being of human beings, the being which is using you. No, I'm asking you to confront it, to accept it, not like give in or surrender, but to accept as in be with. All that noise in your life, all that chatter in the back of your head, all that evaluation and judgment and assessment, the whole story in which you are a player in the script called your life, I'm asking you to consider the fundamental inauthenticity of that. That is really very much like a thunderstorm, to which you and I have added this great fantasy, this great story, this great soap opera. Maybe it doesn't mean anything when you're sad. Maybe you're just sad. Maybe it doesn't mean anything more than it means when it rains hard outside. Oh, I know, you think it's out to get you. Really, you do. You even complain about it. It's like kicking in your windshield when you have a flat. Maybe it really doesn't mean anything. And maybe that isn't sad either, because maybe that doesn't mean anything either. See, maybe it doesn't mean anything that doesn't mean anything. I know you're fighting against it, because you think it means something that doesn't mean anything. You showed up as a human being, that's the total options. That's the being of human beings, like what you inherited. That's our inheritance. And we're all waiting for it to turn out, and it is not going to turn out. This really is it. There are no hidden meanings. There are no secrets being kept from you. It isn't going to turn out. It isn't going to get better. It gets better and it gets worse, and it gets better and it gets worse as we thrash around amongst the options. But remember, the box in which the options come determines the quality of living, not which option you choose. I know you think your option's right. You chose the right option. You got it figured out. You got it made. Okay, I accept it. You did. The only problem is that it's all in that box. And in that box, there is no being. None. There's right, wrong, dominate, void domination, win, lose, justify, and invalidate. So don't fool yourselves about having a choice. Yes, I grant that you've got options, but no choice. By the way, when I say this is it, I don't mean that nonsensical stuff about be here now. Or let it all hang out. When I say that life doesn't have meaning, that you are devoid of meaning, devoid of purpose, you're a thunderstorm with a lot of conversation about meaning and purpose in which you are very engaged. Some people want to use that as a justification for something. If you use that as a justification for something, you don't get it. That it's meaningless and empty is not a justification for not doing anything. That it's meaningless and empty is meaningless and empty. You can't use it. And if you do use it, if you make a therefore or a prescription or a justification out of it, you didn't get it. It doesn't mean anything if it doesn't mean anything. It's empty that it's empty. And remember, I didn't say it was true. And I know you think that it's an alternative thing to believe. I say it's a possibility in which to stand and look out at life. Now, like I said, we've only got 3.5 hours. We can't get into these things to the depth to which I would get into them if we had the time. There's a much bigger possibility here. This is designed to give you a taste. The taste of the real thing is different than being told about it. You know, when you taste the banana split, it's different than being told about a banana split. But the taste of a banana split is also different than eating a whole banana split. So this is a taste of the forum, of the work of the forum. It's a taste. We want to take a look from a slightly different perspective. Let's see. We talked about is earlier. We said that when you live is, those ises use you. A black cat is unlucky. That uses you. We said that it is thought that a black cat is unlucky will use you less. Black cats being unlucky is a superstition. That will use you very little. That will leave you with the freedom to be. So in this investigation of the being of human beings, I want to talk about not what shows up like the circumstances of your life. See, people always think, well, if you don't know me, that is to say, if you don't know my circumstances, if you don't know my story, if you don't know what's happening in my life, how can you say anything that's of any value to me? You don't know me. I know you're very attached to your own story, like it's who you are. But I'm really more interested in the box in which your story shows up. I'm really more interested in the context in which your circumstances live. So I want to investigate with you, take a look at with you, the boxes you inherited when you showed up as a human being. The domains of showing up, rather than what shows up. The domains of showing up for the circumstances and the story of your life. The domain of showing up for the feelings and thoughts and so on and so forth of your life. When you show up as a human being, what kind of showing up opportunities are there? Well, let's use an example of the person with whom you live. You go home and you say, I love you. What we should say when we go home is, I live the concept I love you. And I measure my feelings against my concept of love. And if my feelings match my concepts of love, then I feel good about my love for you. And if my feelings at the moment don't match my concepts of love, then I begin to doubt my love for you. I live the concept I love you, and I examine my actions. And when my actions match my concepts of love, I feel good about what I've done. And when my actions don't match my concepts of love, I feel guilty about what I've done. I live the concept I love you. And I know that I'm living the concept I love you because I can remember, most of us, I can remember living in the presence of my love for you. And the presence of love is distinct from love as a concept. And by contrasting the two, I can see that it would really be right to say I live in the concept I love you. And every once in a while, but not often, I'm in the presence of my love for you. Now, I know that's real enough for you to follow. And it's all right with me if you think that what I just said is not true about you, but everybody else. So that demonstrates, because we don't have the time to go into it any more deeply, that there are domains of showing up that are distinct from one another, in which X can show up in one domain, and the same X can show up in a different domain. We can have love as a presence and love as a concept. It's the same stuff, it's love. But please notice how different the impact is on the quality of our living between love as a presence and love as a concept. Now, I picked a subject, namely love, which is easy to talk about. Because again, we have very little time. But I'm saying that the kind of being that a human being is, when you showed up as a human being, you had available to you two domains of distinction, two ontological domains, two domains of showing up, in which life could show up as an experience, and life could show up as a representation of experience. I say the kind of being that human beings are loses their inheritance, so that they lose the distinction between these two domains of showing up, and life neither shows up discretely as an experience, as a presence, nor does it show up as a concept, as a representation, but that the two get collapsed together, wherein life doesn't show up at all. We live in a collapse of domains of showing up. Our experience always devolves to memory, that is to say, to the representation of our experience. Our memories, our concepts, our descriptions of life, which is not life, but a description of this, our definitions, which is not that which is being defined, namely not presence, our explanations, our justifications, our rationalizations shape our experiences. So that rather than experience something directly, like as an opening, you and I experience through the already structures of interpretation, namely our structure of concepts. A conceptually shaped experience reinforces the concept that shaped it. The reinforced concept more fully shapes the experience. The more fully shaped experience reinforces the concept some more, and it goes around like this in a vicious circle. That is what you and I live into. I say that you and I live into a vicious circle. What is before us is not our past like a history, although many people use that interpretation. Rather, what is before us is this vicious circle of the collapse of these two domains, in which there is no distinction between what is and my representation of what is, in which there is no distinction between the presence and the concept of the things in our lives that we live into. What goes in front of us, the space into which we live our lives, is this vicious circle. Now, there's something very powerful about just that. If you just restore the distinctions that you inherited as a human being, so that life can show up when it is present as a presence, and life can show up when it is being represented or conceptualized a concept. So I want you to be very, very, very clear that I am not talking about getting rid of concepts. I'm not talking about irrational. I'm not talking something anti-intellectual. That is for me like cutting off half of yourself. No, there's a richness and a power and a validity and a value in our concepts, in our descriptions of life, in our stories about life, but not when they're confused with the presence of life. And for the most part, for most people, we have fallen into a collapse of these domains of distinction. So just like a possibility, stand in the possibility that life no longer shows up for you like a distinction, that you are no longer living a distinction between presence and concept, that the two are kind of mashed together, and that into which you live your life is this collapse of these distinctions, which I call the vicious circle. Take, for example, looking out from that possibility at your relationships, or at your relationship, that you are living into a future built like this. I don't mean in terms of the circumstances, because you can put any circumstances in here. But in terms of the possibility of it, the possibility of it is really what is possible in this vicious circle. That's hard. Let me give you another example. There's this guy by the name of Diogenes who lived in a barrel and carried a lantern around for an honest man and died that fine one. I don't live in a barrel. I don't carry a lantern. I'm not looking for an honest man. I'm looking for someone who is late. And I've never found anybody who is late. I've never found anybody who's been late. People, can you believe that? I've never found anybody who's late. Just late. People are always late because. You see, like a presence, when you're late, you're late. And that's all. Period. And if you want to look for cause in the domain of presence, then you're late because you're late. Like a presence. Now, it's also valid that you forgot. I forgot. I'm late because I forgot. It's true that you forgot. Nobody's saying that you didn't forget. You did forget. But I forgot lives in a different domain of showing up than I'm late. See, if you're late and you remembered, notice that there's no difference in terms of impact than if you're late and you forgot. You don't notice that. You think it's different if you're late and you forgot than it is if you're late and you remembered. And you live in a culture which doesn't know the difference either. It wants to know why you're late. So I think the fairly trivial thing to invite you to restore for yourself this distinction, to restore for yourself the domains of showing up, not like that's true, but like a possibility, like standing in the possibility of your life, your relationships, your work, your concerns in the world, showing up like a presence, and having that distinct from the story you tell about it, from the description, from the justifications, the rationalizations, the excuses, the explanations, so that you've got some room for life to show up just like that. Now, the reason I bring it up because it has something very powerful to do with the kind of being that human beings have fallen to be. I bring it up so that you can look from the possibility that you're living out into a box called a vicious circle, where the story of your life is really that into which you are living your life, where the story you tell about yourself is really that space.
We'll continue. Open to the best day ever. Peace and love. Bye-bye.